could happen. So yeah, Andrew Luck was one of the biggest stories of the season, and now here we are. Well, guys, we got just a little bit of time left here, so I want to get with you, Ed, real quickly. The Seattle Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles meet. Both seasons are on the brink. Take us a 30-30 look at the Philadelphia Eagles getting ready for the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, everybody knows it's a rematch from a game they just played November 24th when the Seahawks came to Philly and won 17-9, and now here they are again coming to Philly. Both teams, though, are so different looking now than they were just those 5 or 6 weeks ago when they played last. The Seahawks have really been hammered with injuries just in the past month. They lost pretty much their whole starting backfield with Chris Carson and Rashad Penny going out. And, that's huge, not having them. I know they signed Marshawn Lynch off the couch. He kind of looked like he came right off the couch last week a little bit. But Pete Carroll said on a conference call this week that they want to see him take the next step now. I mean, really, they don't have any choice for him to make that next step. It's do or die now for Seattle. So we'll see what he has left. But for the Eagles, they need to stop the run. It always starts with stopping the run. And offensively, the Eagles are just as banged up as Seattle, if not maybe more so. When you look at their skill positions, the receiver spot, they don't have Deshaun Jackson, Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar. These are the three receivers the Eagles had hoped to rely on this year, and they got hurt. One by one, they each went by the wayside, and the Eagles have been getting by with practice squad players. I mean, I would challenge anybody to name the 4 receivers on the Eagles. I don't know, unless you're an Eagles fan, you could do it. And even if you're an Eagles fan, I'm not sure you could get all 4. I mean, that's how crazy it's been that they've been able to win with this cast. I mean, this Eagles team has 16 undrafted players on the roster, which is more than they have first-round and second-round picks combined, which is 15. So they have more undrafted players on this roster, and yet here they are. They won 4 in a row. I know people say, well, geez, it's against the NFC East, and all 3 coaches have been fired in that division. But, again, I would be hard-pressed to find another team in the NFL that had to win 4 straight division games with their backs against the wall like the Eagles were, sitting at 5-7 when they began that march, and win all 4. I mean, division games are tough to begin with, no matter what the records are, because those teams are so familiar with each other. So you could say it's against an inferior opponent, and the Eagles winning all 4 to me is really a credit to them, especially who they did it with. Now, the Seahawks have kind of gone in a different direction than the Eagles. Since that loss, they're 2-3, but they still have Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson's just a great X factor in this game. He has never lost to the Eagles. He's 4-0 in his career. So the Eagles have to find a way to beat Russell Wilson. They did it against Dallas. Ezekiel Elliott was 5-0 against the Eagles when Dallas came through here, and the Eagles held them out of the end zone, and they beat Elliott. I like their chances to beat Russell Wilson. I really do. I know most of the country's probably riding with Seattle on this, but I think it's difficult for a team coming off a key loss to the 49ers to fly back across the country to play an Eagles team in the same building and beat that Eagles team in the same building twice within a short period of time. The Eagles defense plays terrific at home. They've only given up 16 points a game. And since 2016, they've only given up 16.1 points per game at home, which is the best in the NFL. They averaged that amount this year, 16.1 surrendered at home. So if the Eagles can hold the Seahawks to that number, I like the way this offense is playing, even with these practice squad parts. Carson Wentz is really playing with a lot of confidence. He's trusting these players to make plays, and they're going out and doing it for him. And they're hungry players because they want to prove that they belong in the NFL. I think if this game was in Seattle, obviously I'd take Seattle, but I like a lot of the intangibles in this game that favor the Eagles. And I think they'll find a way to win this game and probably go to San Francisco next Saturday night.
Well, absolutely, and I think a home game at Philadelphia is much better than for against the Seahawks. You'd much rather have a home game at home, have the Seahawks on the road, I should say, as opposed to going on the road to the Seahawks. Tony Donahue of the Tony D Podcast. Tony, I know you're dipping your foot into the open sports book legal gambling now. So give us some safe bets. Give us some lock-ins for a wild card weekend. Tony, are you still with us? Tony
Yeah, it was one of the
Donahue.
coolest days. Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead. I can hear you now. Go ahead.
So it was one of the coolest days, I think, in the state's history back on September 1st when they legalized sports gambling. You can go downtown and check out the sports book. You can do it on your app. You look at today's playoff games. I like Buffalo on the money line. I think the Bills have a chance to go down and beat the Texans. That defense could slow down Deshaun Watson, slow down those weapons. And Allen's been playing very, very well this year. I think the Patriots should have no problem covering today against the Titans. The Saints will blow out the Vikings tomorrow. I think you're looking at a 17, 20-point win. Kirk Cousins not very good when he needs to be, especially in primetime games. And tomorrow afternoon, as you guys just talked about, the Eagles-Seahawks is going to be so close to call just because, it is Seattle going to the East Coast. It is a weird kind of start time. The weather could play a factor in that. I'm going to stay off that one, but I definitely like the Bills today money line and the Patriots to cover the points.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I'm having fun with it because I'm a very conservative guy anyway. But I'm having fun when I got the app, and so I started with like $20, and I make a little money here, a little money there. But I'm only betting what I win, so I'm not really losing anything. So I'm really right now just playing on house money, which is the best money to play with. But I know Mo is kind of more of our betting expert, but what are some of the pros and cons and the best practices, if you will, Tony, as you get into this betting now that it's legal and you could do it very, very easily? It could get out of control very easily. But I'm up to $100, but I started at $20, but I really haven't added any more money. So I'm only playing what I win, which is the best way to go, in my opinion. But I know it could get out of control real easy. So maybe give us some helpful pointers on that there, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, I think when things opened up on September 1st, where you could legalize, when it became legalized, you could only do it downtown at the sports book, and really the apps hadn't been set up yet. Now we're a couple months into it, the apps have been set up, and you just kind of look at it like, hey, it's something fun to do. A lot of people try to do it for a living, and that's very difficult to do. That's probably one of the hardest things to do just because it's so inconsistent. But yeah, you got to weather the storm. There's going to be highs. There's going to be lows. Weather the storm. Make sure to cash out, and kind of like what you do, Tom, is you just want to stay on top of it, and you want to continue to just play on house money and then cash some of that out. I've gotten cash outs within 24 hours of some pretty hefty paydays. So just having fun with it, something to do. Gives a little bit more intrigue to the games.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll go to you now, Ed Kracz, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's start breaking down this weekend's games. Let's start with the Bills and the Texans. You heard Tony said he likes the money line with the Bills, but I hope the Bills do win just because, well, I'm in the AFC South and I want to see the Texans lose. That sums it up for me, but go ahead, Ed. What are your thoughts, the Bills and the Texans for today?
Yeah, let me just put one thing out there. I know Tony said he's staying away from that Eagles Seahawks game, but I'll just point out quickly that the Eagles have been the underdogs, as far as point spread goes. For this will be the sixth time under Doug Peterson that they've been the underdogs in the playoffs, and I think the Seahawks are 1.5 point favorites in this one. So this will be the sixth time the Eagles are underdogs in the playoffs. And under Peterson, they're 4-1 in those games. So you can take that information for what it's worth. They went 3-0 in those games during their Super Bowl run in 2017, and they were 1-1 last year. As underdogs, they beat the Bears, of course, in the wild card weekend on the road last year, but lost to the New Orleans Saints in the divisional round. And now here we are again. They're underdogs going up against Seattle Sunday. So just a little food for thought for all you gamblers out there, all you bettors. But as far as the Bills and the Texans, I think Texans are going to be without Will Fuller, and that's kind of a big loss today for them. In a predictions column that I wrote, I had the Texans winning this game, but I thought Fuller would be available. Now I'm not really sure about that. This is two quarterbacks under the age of 25 going against each other, Josh Allen and Deshaun Watson. I think that's it's only the sixth time that's ever happened where two quarterbacks have started a playoff game under the age of 25. The last time was in 2012 when Robert Griffin III for Washington went against Russell Wilson for the Seahawks in a wild card game. So, that's kind of an interesting little fact. But I love the Bills' defense. I don't like the fact that they have to go on the road for Josh Allen's first start. I think that favors someone like Deshaun Watson, who I think is going to find a way to win this game. I think the Texans are going to find a way to win this game. I know they lost at home last year in the wild card game. The Indianapolis Colts went in, and Andrew Luck fired 2 touchdowns and 220 yards passing to upset the Texans, and I just don't think they're going to let that happen again, and they'll find a way with Deshaun Watson, a little bit more playoff experience under his belt than Josh Allen. I think the Texans will win the game.
Real quickly before we have to wrap it up and put a bow on this segment, Tony, we'll start with you. I'm going to take the reverse effect here. So it's kind of unusual, but maybe not, just because it just seems weird. We have 2 AFC South teams in the wild card hunt. So with the last question, I wanted to see the Bills win because, well, it's the Texans. Well, now I want to see the Titans win because, well, it's the New England Patriots. And we got to figure out a way to stop the Patriots. So I'm on this Titan and Marcus Mariota and well, maybe not Mariota, but so much. But the Titans bandwagon, I'm on that bandwagon to beat the New England Patriots, and then on Monday we get an announcement that Tom Brady's going to retire, and on Tuesday we get an announcement that Bill Belichick's going to the Cowboys. Just kidding, but go ahead. What are your thoughts about the Titans and the Patriots?
I think you got to give a tip of the cap to Ryan Tannehill, the way he's played late in the stretch. They had 2 games against the Texans, 2 out of the last 3 games. Tannehill's kind of had a resurgence there in Tennessee with Mariota out with injury. I think the Titans can give them a run for their money. Look, New England had everybody playing last week, and they lost to Miami. That defense is not really as good as it was at the beginning of the year, and it's crazy to say that a Tom Brady offense has had trouble, but they've struggled throughout the season. I wouldn't be surprised if the Titans give New England a run for their money. Do I think that they're going to win? No, but I think this could be a little bit closer game than what people think.
Ed, let's wrap it up here. Give you the final word. Let's talk about the other game tomorrow, and that's the Vikings at the Saints. This should be a marquee matchup.
Oh yeah, well I'm kind of with Tony on that one. I think I think the Saints are. I think the Saints could go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. I really do. I think maybe some people are kind of overlooking them. I don't know why, but you look at how strong the NFC is. I think the Saints went 13-3, and they couldn't even get a bye with that record. So the NFC is tough, and trying to pick at who's going to come out of the NFC is not very easy to do. But I like the Saints in this game. I think it's a big ask for the Vikings to go in there and win. I mean, you have the owner of the Vikings already coming out and saying Mike Zimmer's job is safe and Chris Spielman's job is safe. I mean, why in the world would you even address that heading into a playoff game? I just think the Saints have too much firepower. That they're special team. I think they're the best well-rounded team left playing. All 3 phases: offense, defense, and special teams. So I think Tony said probably a blowout type game, two touchdowns. That's probably what I think will happen too. I think the Saints won't have any trouble getting past the Vikings. So. And then I think like I said, I think they can get to the Super Bowl. And that's really, I think the Titans, getting back to that game, I think the Titans are going to upset the Patriots. I really do. I love Derrick Henry and the running game they have and what Ryan Tannehill has been able to do. To me, they're the hot hand, and I think they'll find a way in a tough place to win against, formidable foes in Belichick and Brady to get a win in Foxborough.
Yeah, it's good to see Ryan Tannehill. I had a chance to meet him and talk with him at the Indianapolis 500 on the red carpet, and he's really down to earth, a very personable person to talk to, but I would have never, ever thought, talking to him then, that he would be basically the franchise, what it looks like could possibly be the franchise quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. Real quickly, guys, let's play the Homer card with me. Tony, I know you live here in Indianapolis with me. Let's talk a little bit about what does the Indianapolis Colts do? We heard Frank Ballard's press conference this past week. He basically said, it's under evaluation. We wanted to use this year with Jacoby Brissett to see if it was a fit. He didn't come out and say it wasn't a fit, but he certainly, if you read into the tea leaves, said that they're looking elsewhere. We know that they're in talks with Phillip Rivers, which could be a good matchup. They're looking for that franchise quarterback. The Indianapolis Colts need to find that franchise quarterback. Do they find it in the draft? Do they find it in a older veteran